Maybe
I hope we don't have a...
Okay, we're all set to go.
All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order and roll call, starting with Jeff
Jeff House here.
Will Rodebush here.
and John Sampson here. And Heidi is just walking in, so we'll say she's here also. Christina Tracy, again, could not be here, but we do have a quorum, so that's great. Item 2, approval of the minutes. Do we have
I don't
any
think they look
corrections?
Didn't see them.
Well, one thing that I noticed, this may not be so important, is, thanks. In the section about that program we went to at the museum, remember about the,
Right,
the,
the thing that we attended.
yes.
Yeah,
I didn't note that we were there when we reported on past
The,
events, but maybe that's not so
This is
important.
concerning the building at the
At the
Ohio
State Fair, yeah.
State Fair, and some historical building that is being put together with some displays.
Did see some.
Right,
And Jeff and I made a little appearance and a couple recommendations. Otherwise, are we okay?
I'd make a motion that we approve the
Okay,
the
I'll second.
November 26 meeting minutes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Administrative items. Next meeting scheduled for February 25th, 2025. Are we all able to attend that?
I am.
Okay, I'm good.
I'd make, to be,
Okay,
Yes.
you're okay, Heidi?
Yep.
Excellent. Letter B, BG Song Report. Anything to report on that, Heidi? You, okay, you've had no interaction, okay. Okay. Item C, programmatic agreement for HUD-funded programs.
Yes, so I gave you the information in your packet along with a memo that I tried to summarize it. We understand it's complicated, so we have Matt Snow here, who you may remember meeting before at a meeting, and he can explain in a little more detail what this means, and you can ask him any questions you may have.
All right. So I'm Matt Snow, the Community Development Administrator for the City of Bowling Green here. Just wanted to provide a quick overview of the programmatic agreement between the City of Bowling Green and the State Historic Preservation Office, which we are asking the Historic Preservation Commission to review, approve, and sign. Our department oversees a federally funded home repair program that addresses necessary health and safety related repairs for low to moderate income households within Bowling Green city limits. As part of that program, we are required to comply with Section 106 Historic Preservation Act requirements, which essentially means any proposed home repair project must undergo a historic review to ensure the work does not negatively impact historic properties unless otherwise exempted by a programmatic agreement, as we've presented. The State Historic Preservation Office has identified certain repair activities that they consider to have no impact on historic properties. These activities listed towards the end of the programmatic agreement include repairs like furnaces, air conditioners, water heaters, in-kind roof replacements, gutters, and work completed on mobile homes. We just completed our annual report yesterday to the State Historic Preservation Office. That included 21 properties on the report, 6 of which we did do a full historic review. 11 were mobile homes that were exempted, 2 HVAC projects which were exempted, and 2 in-kind roof replacements, which were exempted under the previous programmatic agreement. By formalizing this agreement, we can streamline the review process for these projects, allowing us to move forward more efficiently and respecting our historic preservation responsibilities. Without this agreement, an example would be an applicant applying for an emergency situation, such as a roof that's leaking or a furnace that's out in the middle of winter. Without an agreement, we would be required to do the 10-page historic review report, which includes project details, photos, maps, and scope of work, along with a 30-day review process from the State Historic Preservation Office if we're not able to exempt the activities with this programmatic agreement. With that, I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the agreement or the historic review process.
Any
No, I didn't.
concern?
It looks pretty complex, what you're working on.
Yeah, it can be, and we work hand in hand with the State Historic Preservation Office through all of it.
Good.
Are there ever points where this commission would be getting involved in the review?
I would say yes, if the activity fell within the historic overlay or a historic identified property. Even though we're signing this agreement, we would still, come to the commission, even if we're exempted and your rules would supersede their rules in my eyes. So we would still come to the commission to make sure that it aligns with your rules as well.
Thanks.
So do we have a role in signing off on this with you? What is our responsibility at this point? We have
Yeah.
a form, yes.
Yep, so the part of the agreement, the mayor will sign it, and then we are also asked to consult with local historic districts such as yourself. So part of that agreement has a signature line for you to sign.
And are you asking us to sign today or to debate this at this point? What is the timetable?
At the latest, we need to have this back to the state in March. So ideally, if it could be signed at this meeting, that would be great. But worst case, if it could be the next meeting, would be fine.
Do you see any objections?
I see no reason to delay it. Oh,
We don't either.
I don't either.
Okay.
I read through it, so
Okay,
so did I.
like a good thing.
all right. Are we prepared to, any more discussion, or are we prepared to take a vote?
I'd make a motion that you as chair could sign the programmatic agreement for coordination between the city of Bowling Green and the Ohio State Historic Preservation Office.
I would second that motion.
Okay. Without, can I just, I didn't bring my. So there's perhaps not a need for a vote on this, right? Just an agreement?
I would say there's a motion on the table, and that would be good to have that on the record to vote
Okay.
on that.
Do we have a second?
I seconded.
Second, okay. All of those in favor? Yes. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Nobody opposed, so I think we can move forward. and,
Thank you.
Be happy to sign. Good,
Thank you very much.
all right.
Shall I?
We could do it after, or, yeah.
Okay. Moving ahead, local designations, buildings of interest. Local designation updates, North Maple Street, proposed district, and 503 Buttonwood Avenue, proposed individual designation. As I understand it, those are not proposed anymore. Passed by city council?
Correct. The North Maple Street designation was passed on December 2nd of 2024. I believe I sent you a copy of the ordinance, and I brought one just in case you wanted to see it, and then we could attach it to the minutes. I also have a copy of 503 Buttonwood. That ordinance was passed on January 6th of 2025. And I brought a copy of a thank you letter to Mr. and Mrs. Ladd that I'm hoping each of you can sign. We've been doing this with individual properties just because it's, they've requested it and it seems like the right thing to do. Also, this brought up in my mind another discussion of what we could do post-designation, some ideas that I got from National Alliance of Preservation Commissions that I thought we could talk about later. But again, just wanted to have you sign this note before you leave. And that's it, unless you have any questions.
Very good.
Oh, that's fine. And you're talking about a discussion at some future meetings or today?
We could today. I do have just some ideas from other communities, what they do after a property has been designated. For example, one of the common things is offering a option to purchase a plaque. And what was interesting about that, some cities seem a little more flush with cash and they pay for it, which is a little surprising because they can be, up to $600 or so, depending on how large they get. And another community, Cleveland, I got the idea that I thought was probably the most reasonable, is that they have a form that once a property is designated, the owner could come, fill out a form and pay for a plaque, and the city would order it, and then, once it's in, call them and let them know. So it's kind of an optional thing that somebody might want to do. So I got copies of all that information, where they get the plaques made, and this plaque that they order is only $200, which I thought was, pretty reasonable option for somebody. So again, just an idea, and I can pass these papers out. And there was another idea from another community too, where, they send people a packet of information about being part of a historic district or individual property. And they do a little ceremony and they present people with the plaque, and they have a poster about the property. They give some pictures and history on it, make it special, like a ceremony.
Since we don't have really a budget to do this at this point, we would need to figure out some funding. I like the idea of perhaps offering that to the owner. It would be a little unique for us to present their own plaque to them if they've ordered it, but we certainly could do that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just giving you ideas. Out of all the ideas that were sent to me, I like the idea that Cleveland does. They already have the plaque company. They already have it designed, so they all look consistent, the same size, the same text on there, obviously besides the address or the date, or they used to use ordinance numbers on the plaques, but ended up getting confused with the numbers, and so they said they don't do that anymore. So just kind of determining what that plaque would look like, the size and the cost, just makes it kind of more streamlined and would be comprehensive for the whole city. So
They
that
have
seems like the most doable option.
Did they have exterior plaque? Is this exterior?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
And when I talked to Cleveland, they said, all they do is order it, basically take the money, and then once the plaque comes in, they tell the owner, and then the owner has to install it on their own. That way there's no liability on installation for the city or commission. So it seemed like a pretty reasonable idea.
Yeah, I like that.
And does the company that produces the plaque offer different designs that you can choose from?
Well, in Cleveland, they just basically give, this is what it's going to look like. Here's the form if you want one. Here's the size, and,
Yeah, I didn't mean individuals, but maybe we would decide.
Oh, I would assume so. I didn't go as far as contacting the company. I just got the information because I thought that was the most reasonable cost. Like I said, another community was $600 for their plaques. Another one, I think, went up to $800. So it seemed like this $200 from this company would the most reasonable to start with if we wanted to look at, in general, some
If we
other
want
companies to get some different prices.
If we want people to actually buy them and put them up, that's more likely.
How would you handle a district, like, say, North Maple?
I think you could follow up with a letter saying, just like what they do with an individual, here's the form, here's an option. If you so desire to do so, it's not mandatory.
When we had the historic different designation in the 1980s, we were offered that same same idea that we could purchase a plaque if we wanted to, and many owners did. And I imagine it was something like $200, $300. So it'd be a similar kind of situation. Yeah,
We have a street sign for the Boomtown district.
pardon me.
We have street signs for the Boomtown district.
You're talking about the street signs that we made, the sign project?
No. I'm talking about on top of the street
National
sign where,
Register.
Oh, okay.
no, I'm talking about the street signs where it says Maple Worcester, on top of it says Boomtown district.
Yeah.
So North Maple Street, if they wanted to have an extra sign on top of their
Yeah.
street sign, I'm not saying I'm in favor of that, I'm just saying
Another option.
It's a possibility.
that was done
Yeah.
for the district-wide Boomtown.
Well, I think from my perspective, moving forward with that offer is a good idea. And I guess we would need to see some designs.
I think we can look into it and figure out if that's what we want to go forward with and not make a decision right now. Look at the designs and
Yeah,
other options and then discuss it further next time.
Okay. Put that on the agenda for next time. Okay. Good idea. Anything else on that topic?
I'll just pass the papers around and I can also forward.
Okay. So the former South Main School, update on that. We do have, I have a little bit of not new information, but I did contact Rose Drain and had some feedback from her and from is Kathleen here, did I see? Which maybe I can just read what they've discovered. This is representing BG Song, and we had at one point discussed trying to partner with them in saving the South Main School. So this is from Rose. May I read this, Rose? I'm inclined to say that the BG Song has talked to a developer in Toledo and a housing and lending specialist with rural LISC, and that our group does not have the capacity at this time to South Main School project. And then Kathleen responded also, at this time, I agree, we don't. However, we now have a lot of information that outlines what needs to be done. As we continue to work towards solutions on housing, if we come across a grant or benefactor, we will have an outline of how to move forward. This is a heavy lift, as they say, both in terms of dollars and the scope of the project. I've not given up hope, but I'm realistic. We need much money and a strong skill set to manage the project. Keep your ears to the ground and don't give up hope. So we remain hopeful, and we would love to see a potential donor come forward that would like to help undertake that project. But there's not money at this time available to undertake projects, at least as the Bee Gees song had described it. As I was part of one of the meetings, they talked about the possibility of creating a series of upscale apartments in that building, and putting, I think, an elevator in, and there'd be a lot of extra expense in making that happen. But at the very least, we can move perhaps forward in making that a historic designation by HPC, if we can encourage the owner to allow us to do so. I don't know that we've approached him with that idea in mind. Jeff, you had some correspondence.
I've never mentioned it directly to him, but he knows that's what we do too. I also think we've discussed getting the national designation as well, which we can do without the owner's involvement.
Which could help for funding too. then.
Right, so I think pursuing both of those things
Yeah.
is probably a good idea. And Heather sent us some things today about possible way to.
Yeah, there's a grant now. It's more first come, first serve. It's from the Department of Development, and it's called the Historic Preservation Pipeline Initiative. And really, that money is really geared towards helping nonprofits or local governments that are looking to get a building on the National Register, because it does take, it's a heavy lift to even get a property or district on the National Register. So this money is basically first come, first serve. You can either nominate an individual building, which is basically up to $4,000 for that grant, a nomination of a historic district up to $12,000, and then another, it's called Type C, is integrity investigation of a building up to $12,000. So I just thought that might be something to look at for the South Main School. The downside is you do need the owner to consent to this pipeline grant, or at least to apply for it. And, but if we did on our own, the National Register nomination, we would not need the owner's consent. So it's just something to think about. I printed out all the guidelines for the grant and the application guide.
Great.
And I guess one thing I could do, if you want me to reach out to the owner, I could do that on behalf of you and being a city staff member and see where he's at on the building, and that we're considering the National Register or looking at this pipeline initiative and see how he responds.
If you could, that would be great. My contact was less formal than that, but I think he'll know we're serious if it comes from you with these suggestions.
There are some wonderful opportunities there. We just have financing to make it happen, or to encourage somebody to pursue that without tearing that building down. We certainly don't want to see that happen.
And it has to be on the National Register to be able to get federal historic tax credits. And to get Ohio state tax credits, you have to be on locally designated plus on the National Register. So I shouldn't say that. You have to be locally designated or on the National Register.
Oh, but the National Register would be sufficient for Ohio then?
I think you have to have local, but I'll have to look at that more deeply.
That-
I know there's a difference between the Ohio and the federal.
In any case, pursuing both of them is worthwhile.
Yeah, especially National Register, because I think it
First.
would at least cover the federal. And most people, if you're doing a project like that, you want both tax credits.
But
Great.
you can't apply, I just read through the forms that you sent us about the Ohio tax credits. You can't apply for the grant or tax abatement until you actually have a project underway and drawings and a plan, because it has to help you financially support the construction project.
Right.
That you wouldn't technically be able to do it without the funding. So,
Well, at any rate, if you would be willing to make that contact and see if he's willing to move in some way to help designate this, I think it would be helpful to the project. Great. We can come back to this a little bit later if there's any lobby visitation, but let's not give up hope on that one.
And thank you to Song for working so much
Yeah,
on it.
we appreciate your discussion and concern as we have that same concern, so thank you for that. Okay. The former community hospital, 416 Wooster, update on that. That has been, as I understand it, the city council has approved of the, it's not called a waiver, what is it called?
We'll back up here a minute. So the owner applied for rezoning, and the planning commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation to city council.
Oh, so it is not come
Right, so
through yet.
next city council will have it on their agenda, which I assume would be Monday, since that's the next meeting. And they would have, they're required to schedule a public hearing. So a piece of legislation needs 3 readings by the city council. And then it's required to have a public hearing given 30 days notice before that's scheduled. So there's still time involved in that.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay. And so the public hearing would be, what, a month down the road probably?
At least, yeah. It just depends how that 30 days falls and then the next council meeting.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, so I understand that they were asked to start the historic property inventory form. So
Correct.
we have a lot of information about that, so I went ahead at the owner's request to start filling out the form, and I emailed that to everybody today, a little bit earlier, so if you want to take a look at that in your emails,
Wait.
we can discuss that. I didn't bring I've edited it a little bit, so I don't have the current copy printed out with me.
I thought I was
but
looking at that, and this is what printed out from me, but maybe I looked at the wrong form.
I don't know how it came through. I
I
filled
did-
it out on
Yeah,
my computer, so if it was blank, I apologize. But I have it typed out. I can resend it, or I can print it out again, but, I mean, it's very historic. Nothing's been altered, nothing's been added, so I'm sure it won't be an issue with us to approve of that as a historic designation, so I'm anticipating
right.
that, and just, I believe it's a Queen Anne style with the lower cross gables, free classic porch columns, and then the rest is just pretty standard, and I took some information from the article that was written about it as far as the history, with who lived there, so if you take a look at that and get any feedback to me, or
Great.
if anybody else wants to write it up, I'd be happy with that, collaborate, so just let me know.
I can help a little bit. Thank you. Thank you for leading on that one. Any other discussion?
Were they thinking a national register for that house?
Well, they're already in the National Register because they're in the
Boomtown, but not
district.
the individual house. I don't know whether they would qualify because of the modifications inside.
It doesn't take in consideration the inside. It's-
But I don't think the inside has anything.
Or the National Register does, I think.
It's
No.
just the
I believe-
exterior.
I believe it would qualify for the national and the Ohio, especially because they want to turn it into a rental. And so that qualifies. It does not qualify if for tax credits if it's individual owner. So the fact that they want to change it into to multifamily rental would qualify it for,
Tax
as long
credits.
as they pass, all the points and the 45 points out of 90 and all that sort of stuff. But they can fill out the form and see. The next round, it starts, the deadline is February 15th, but they would have to have construction documents underway and
The next round for
For,
consideration.
for Ohio tax credits.
For the
would
tax
be February 15th for the preliminary application and March for the final application. I don't believe they would be ready by that time, so
it's
I'm
coming fast.
anticipating fall at the earliest, but they can't start construction until they have the funding, so it's still a long process, but the fact that it would preserve something historic would be nice.
Yeah. Great.
Am I correct that the building is already designated at the national level because it's part of the Boomtown?
Correct.
District?
Yep.
And yeah, it was just to get the tax funding from the National Parks Service, they would have to have construction documents and a plan for that. So I think it would be nice if we could work on the CLG on our part. And get that reviewed and approved possibly next meeting or so.
Would I,
Could we get that reviewed and approved possibly at the next meeting?
if we can get the documentation and do you think it's ready to go right now, what you've prepared
Well, I'd like to review it amongst
individually?
ourselves,
Yeah.
have some feedback, and then, I mean,
And we still need the owner consent document, which I know they have.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I think we could, if the form is ready to go, I think we could put that on the agenda for next meeting. It's okay? Great, thank you. Moving on, the location of the first BG residence in Bowling Green, 625 Haskins Road. Will has been spearheading that a little bit. You want to talk about it?
We've got the property inventory form sent out to you as a draft. I did get some input on architectural style. There's a massed plan, side gabled. Now, with the entrance, that looks like it was on the addition there. If the entrance on the original part was, of course, when that house was moved there, because it was actually, that house sat here someplace on this site and then was moved up to Haskins Road.
Right here.
Yeah, it was one of 3 properties that had to be vacated for the government to acquire this land for the post office. And like, I think they built in 1914. So there was a delay because of money, but they did order the removal of the properties. And so that supposedly that house was moved, according to newspaper articles, then up to Haskins Road. And so it was moved around 1910. I think that's when the newspaper articles came out about the government requiring these to be moved. So the house was, we're not sure the date, so I put prior to 1910 because if it sat here and was moved in 1910, it was probably built in the 1800s. It does have in the basement, you can see rough sawn logs for the beams. So I don't know what extent they moved, and we don't know how they moved it. So I'll probably leave that as side gable then for right now. Heidi, do you think? Because I don't know that the entrance
Oh,
on.
if it was rotated,
Yeah,
possibly?
if the entrance was like on the south end,
Well, you've been inside the house. Can you tell if it has the original
well, it
layout?
looks like the original door. I mean, it's a really old, but it's probably been there, that addition. I don't know when it was added on. So the door's really old and the framing and everything.
So you think the door that is on it right now is the original front door or location of the original
I think
front
so
door?
for there, yeah.
We just don't know which way it faced.
No,
So looking at the layout of the home, is it like more of a hall and parlor, or is it more just like 2 deep rooms by two wide?
well, you
That
go
kinda
in,
helps.
it's like, you go in as the living room and then the exterior wall. Like, so it's just one big room. The kitchen's on the south side there to the left.
Oh, so that whole, in the picture, the image to the north,
Yeah,
that's just one room?
no, I think it's a couple bedrooms.
Is there a hall, or is it just kind of,
There's a hall. But I have a feeling at one point, the entrance was probably on the south end of that, and it may have been when it sat here.
right?
In other words, it would, the original architectural style be, front gabled. In other words, if,
Yeah, but
so-
yeah, we have no way of,
no,
it doesn't really,
it probably doesn't really matter that much. It's like, but
yeah.
it's
I mean, it's,
just gabled. Maybe I'll just take out this side and just say
well,
gabled.
since
or-
it's been extensively remodeled, it doesn't really tell us.
No,
We're not really preserving the style.
no.
We're more preserving the history.
Yes, yes. And then the other part I put in was that it's probably more significant about this application is the house, as I said, more importantly, the property's has significant historic value. The first residence in Bowling Green was a cabin erected on this property during March and April of 1833 by Elisha Martindale. The cabin location was located where the current garage is located, and that was per the Bowling Green had the Sesquicentennial History book, and it has a picture of the house when it was a barn sitting there, and I think supposedly the barn was sitting where the cabin originally was. So the only other thing that I left pending was if there's anything we want to put about the site plan. I don't know if there's any maps or anything, because you included that on the 503 Buttonwood, which helped. If we have something like that, we could insert it there.
Yeah, I looked at the Sanborn maps, and I don't know which structure it is on this site. I looked at all of them up to at least when, obviously, we thought it was moved. So I'm not sure,
Yeah, and since
without
this,
basically guessing which structure it is.
let me just take that pending off and just leave that, since we don't have a site plan for the current location there.
Right.
What, couldn't you use the the auditor's website for just a site plan and designate that, like, the site is important, but the buildings are non-conforming? Because the location of the original cabin,
If that's something,
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me what you want to put on the farm. We just added that site plan just in case we had one. So I think we ended up having one of the police building, and so we put that on there, like a screenshot. We used a lot of Sanborn maps, so we don't have to put anything.
well, I would think we could just put the auditor's site plan.
I'll leave that,
So that we know,
that you could insert it.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then just say that the buildings that are on the site are non-conforming, really, because the location of the cabin is gone. The cabin itself is gone, so we're not preserving the cabin, we're really preserving the site.
Site, yeah,
The house that is on the form is an old house, but it's
It's-
not historically significant.
other than
it's
being that it was
old.
here, and relocated.
I mean, looking at the Sanborn map, the one from, I moved my pages, 1908. There's a little dot on Main Street where I assume is the address, right at the end to the far west of Oak Street at the end. Do you see somebody put a dot here? So I'm assuming that's where it was. It wasn't, like, not exactly where this building is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, we can include that, or we could
Yeah.
also include the auditor's website.
Well, we have to presume it's at least 100 years old, right?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, if it was moved in 1910,
Yeah.
it probably had been here for a while. Visually, it doesn't look like it's anything.
It's like with the north parts, there.
But as Heidi was saying, the location is the primary.
Yes, yes.
And like you said, the fact that.
Just
it
the
was here.
history of the
Right.
the site.
Okay,
So
okay,
it would be ready then possibly for next meeting also. We do need a public hearing, so whether on both properties to set up a public hearing for next meeting?
yeah.
Or
Yeah, we can do
March.
I just want to point out, like, on the Sanborn maps from 1888 and 1900, there's no building that looks about the same size as that building that was moved in the designated spot. So that's why I'm not sure that it's prior to 1901. At the old post office site, you can see the Sanborn maps, but it's not on the 1888 map or the 1900 map, a building of that size.
I don't know.
It's not visible on the Sanborn maps. That's why
Maybe a portion of that house was moved. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard.
it's a much larger
Guessing,
building
yeah.
on the site,
Oh, yeah.
or
that's-
it's blank
no,
in the same area as this building is said to be, is much smaller than what's shown. The 1888 map has nothing on the site, and the 1900 map has a larger building on the site. They're not the same size. And then the 1908 has a very small building that could be the same footprint as what's currently on Haskins.
That's about it.
I would say it sounds like a little more research is needed prior to scheduling a public hearing. I wouldn't, maybe get this more finalized, because then you could potentially do these two properties at the same time. It'd also make it a little easier.
So
Public hearing March for both, maybe?
that sounds fine.
For the hospital and for
Now,
5?
is there a possibility of more research? I mean,
It sounds like it. You can go to the courthouse and do some more research and maybe look at the newspaper articles that Will's mentioned. There's so many newspapers to look at back then. I found a lot of information recently by doing that.
Okay. So we'll postpone any kind of hearing on this for at least till March. Is that agreeable?
Sure.
Will,
Sounds
you
good.
okay
Yep,
with that?
That'd be fine.
Okay. Now, one suggestion that Will was just speaking to me about earlier was some kind of a protocol or a timetable on
Process.
how this all proceeds. Can you explain what you were?
Well, we email each of the HPC members, and it's easy to start losing track of who originates the property inventory form and who's got the master in it. So it's kind of a process about that it's not documented in Ordinance 158. It kind of gets in there about the public hearing all, but it doesn't really get down to the nitty gritty about the property form and who maintains the master. Now, so my suggestion would be, say, the originator, which in the case, say, for the hospital then would be, say, Heidi, because she's done so much work on, to maintain the master on it with comments from us, and I'll maintain the one on the 625 Haskins until we're satisfied with the content, and then turn that over to the chair at some point. But it's sort of like, so we're not bombarding the chair with a bunch of these inventories for the chair to do the editing, but it would be so that, say, the originator does the editing with input from the members, and then at a certain point in time turns the master, so we just have one master. So running into this at the university, sometimes you'd have multiple masters and people didn't know which one was the original, and we don't want that to happen because it
Well,
gets
I can just say
confusing.
I'm the master because you give it to me and I'm the one preparing it for Planning Commission, City Council. So I don't have to worry about that. I mean, I take whatever draft you give me and I add everything to it.
Okay.
The screenshots you've mentioned, I have no problem with that, and it lives on my computer. And
Okay.
and then, like I said, it ends up with Planning Commission and City
That sounds
Council.
fine, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think we're happy to make you the master.
Yeah, I can't. Already doing it, so you're good.
Good,
So were
okay.
you able to see the stuff that I filled in for the
Yes.
house? Okay, so
Yes.
the text did come through. Okay.
Yes, I could not print it though. I don't know why it printed blank.
Huh.
So I was just going to type it all into a Word document and
Okay.
go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys can still work on it and add whatever you want.
One other thing on the 625, Bill, you stated that the stories above grade were 2. It's actually 1.5.
Yes, I did note that, I'm sorry, but yeah.
Okay.
Because I saw in the
Oh, I didn't look at your.
auditor's report that they count the upper level as a half story.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't look at
It's
your
a story and a
updated.
half versus 2 stories that I had.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item E, other possible sites, just to keep, if we could, on the agenda for future meetings. We've had these come up in the past too, the old windmill, the Hannah House,
Oh, we've done that.
which we've done.
Oh, no, no, we've done that as a building of the month, but not.
The former Corner Grill, and I have concerns about the Claysell Theater. I don't know where that is at. So maybe those are buildings that we can look at for some time in the future, not for today. So if we can have those in the minutes again, Jeff, please.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Friends of the HPC, we have some articles that are in process, I believe. We know Ivy Hall was for December, is that correct?
Yes, I was going to give you copies of, Ivy Hall just went out this week, I think, or
Oh,
Friday.
no, it was Painted Lady.
Oh, Painted Lady, that's right.
Ivy-
Painted
Ivy.
Lady, okay.
Ivy was before the
Painted,
That's right.
of the year.
Yes,
Painted Lady for January.
yes, I have a copy of that. That just went out. And then Jeff did the Royce Building, and I have a copy of what he gave us. Just see it, and then we can attach it to the minutes.
Jeff is our master article writer, so we're going to keep him going if we can. He's doing a great job.
Thanks. I also have some ideas for the future. I'll just run them quickly by you, if I can find my text here. Oh, I see. Just a moment.
Well, we had the Royce block for February at one point. Is that still,
And that, that's already submitted.
that's ready to go?
Yeah.
And then March, there was a possibility of the Turos house.
Right, but she hasn't given us an indication of when that will be ready. So
Okay.
thanks to Jan Knapp, I have an article that was actually published in the Toledo Magazine in 1989 about the house next door to the old Nader house. Now Snook.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
okay.
the Snook house. And it's a really wonderfully written article. But that and the little bit of update that both come from Leanne Snook via Jan Knapp. It's over 2,000 words altogether. So I was going to propose that for this one, because we have this really lively version of the family's interaction with the house and so forth, that we do it in two installments, one in March and one in April, because I wouldn't want to throw anything.
Like a
out.
book.
Yeah. And I haven't been in touch with Leanne Snook yet, but Jan assured me that she'd be happy for us to
Okay,
publish it.
good. Good idea.
Do you have the National Register of Historic Places form? I was just reading through that because Heather provided it this morning, and it has a little paragraph about that house, formerly known as the Helfrich House, 315 West Wooster. So it talks about the style and how it's a typical Queen Anne corner tower, and some interesting. There's a lion's head cartouche-like panel on the eastern elevation between the first and second floors.
Oh, I don't have those things, yeah.
So Heather sent it to us this morning, so you just
Oh,
have to look
okay.
back for the.
I'll go
It's
and
on
look for
page-
that. Didn't notice.
It's under this description of number 7 descriptions.
Okay, thank you.
It's a little extra stylistic stuff.
Great.
Another idea has come from Todd Wagoner. I met him through the Kiwanis Club, and he is a member of the Barn Bums. They're people who meet out at the museum and talk about old stuff, including tractors and things like that. And they started to do a review of the old neighborhood grocery stores in Bowling Green. And so I have most of the addresses, and I've always been interested in them too. You can tell some of the houses. There's one on North Enterprise, there's one on South Prospect. And so I'm looking toward having those as the historic buildings of the month at some point.
There was apparently one on Buttonwood by the lad's house. They said the sign is still embedded in the tree.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
So I'm doing my annual report, and I just wanted to point out, you've written 31 Historic Building of the Month articles so far, and technically covered 35 buildings, because the first time we did it, we did 4 buildings for Preservation Month in May. So each week we did a building.
Good for us. They were doing great.
But I don't think we'll run out soon.
Thank you for all your hard work on that.
Oh, sure, sure. And I thank
Jeff.
Heather for suggesting that we turn to the work we did on the signs for some of the buildings. That's why I did the one on the Royce building, and there are several others that we can still do.
Dick and Nadine Edwards were suggesting the home of Terry and Julia Burton on 528 Dunbar. I don't know if that came through to you, Jeff, or was to Heather, but I saw that. And then we want to keep in the minutes a reminder of September. Wood County Public Library is celebrating a birthday, and we want to make sure that that comes out in September.
Yeah, so in that case, we could do a history of the library. And actually, the the current library building, not as it's been updated, but it was built it opened in 1974, so last year it was 50 years old, so
Right.
it qualifies in that way.
Has the Carter House been done? I'm sure it had, but
I didn't catch.
has the Carter
think-
House been written up?
Yes.
Yeah, we did that one.
I thought so.
Yep, I have a list of when we did that.
I have that list also.
June of 2024.
Okay, public relations, educational projects. I'll just read these quickly. Past workshops and events. Let me make sure I got the right form here. Wood County Museum, First Fridays, Make It and Take It craft, that continues. There was a session December 6th and an upcoming one. No, not up, it's already passed, January 14th, the POW camp during World War II. And was that at the Rossford Senior Center, I believe?
Yeah, I just put that on there since it was
yeah.
concentrated about Bowling Green.
Yeah. Number 2, Ohio Showcase Input Session at Wood County Museum. That happened December 17th. And presentation at the Senior Center about the historical signage project. That just happened, was it last Friday?
Friday.
Yeah, last Friday.
And we had a interesting presentation with flickering visuals throughout the whole session. But Jeff was masterful in keeping it rolling along. So
I didn't talk until the picture came up again.
every 5 seconds or so, the picture would go away and then it would come back. Some technical issues there.
But it was a success, and it was also fully booked. There were 25 people there.
Yeah, they were very appreciative of that session. Future workshops, events, Wood County District Public Library, Behind the Stacks, the history of the WCDPL, March 10th, 2 to 3 p.m. Wood County Museum, First Fridays and Make It and Take It craft, February 7th. That's coming up. And then Historic Preservation Month in May, so we need to be thinking about that. And I want to just throw out a few ideas, which we don't have to vote on today or anything, but could we convince Dick Martin to do his historic bicycle tour again, maybe during that time? That was it seemed like a big hit when he did that the last time. Another idea, a Shakespeare reading by the city's Historic Women's Shakespeare Club. We can talk to Jan Knapp about that. I think that might be fun. And maybe a community jazz band concert in the Clazel Theater, featuring early jazz and vaudeville of the 1920s. So those are some ideas I came up with, and I think maybe we could all be thinking about other projects that we could sponsor or at least suggest to others for May. That's not so far off, actually. So.
No, and why I brought it up is because, internally we have, if we are still doing that sign project that we've done, this would be the 3rd year for it. We do have quite a bit of preparation to do for that, and then a call out for hopefully more involvement. And then, it does take time to order those signs and get all that organized and get the history. So I just wanted to know if we want to do that again too, and kind of do a timeline of what we need to do to get that going. And then my other idea was, I think I mentioned before, is that now that we have the signs all installed, that we maybe could do some sort of scavenger hunt with the signs and kind of make it where it's cross-generational, so we could maybe get some children involved and able to look at these scavenger hunts, and they could go to the sign and look for facts, and maybe it's about the Royce Building or anything, but I just think it'd be a way to kind of interact with the signs, and maybe we ask Christina again if they could offer up a gift card from Juniper like she did before when we had a scavenger hunt. So I don't know what you thought about that idea.
Good. Jeff, you getting all these for
Yeah,
the minutes?
I didn't quite understand what we would get from Christina.
A gift card, I was
Gift
thinking
card,
that,
okay.
sort of like a contest that we did before. We did it downtown, but we did it with, Chris Moen was here then, and she looked at architecture, and we had, people walking around,
Right.
filling that out. So just an idea, but using the signs.
Great. Okay, and the last item under public relations, Jazz, America 250. And
Well, I have an update on that. Council actually passed the resolution on January 21st, so we will be part of the America 250 celebration. I don't know anything more than that, but at least we will be listed as a member, and basically you commit to planning some sort of event celebrating America's 250 and how that relates to Ohio and Ohio's contributions to America. I actually just sat in on a webinar about it, so there'll be a lot of interesting things going on across Ohio during America's 250th birthday. So I'm
we're
sure you'll hear more.
25 years off on that, is that right? But does that happen in the year 2050? What does that mean? 250, or 250 years of our country?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what we're talking.
2026.
I got it. Okay,
1776.
okay.
Also, I forgot to mention when we talked about North Maple that during the council discussion, Rachel Phipps had asked us to relook at the FAQs. And there had been some suggestions for one of the neighbors on that street of some ideas to include on the FAQs. So just throwing it out there if we want to look at this email and then compare our FAQs and see if they need any improvements based on the feedback.
Okay. Let's put that on the agenda for next time if we could, and we'll have a quick discussion about
Are you gonna,
FAQs.
will you send those questions to us ahead of time?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're ready for lobby visitation.
I forgot two more things here. Sorry,
Oh,
not on the agenda.
sorry.
I just want to make sure it's really important that I point out that the Wood County chapter of the Ohio Genealogical Society newsletter, that I email you a copy of that because it has so much great information in there. There's actually a ton of information about the city's first sanitarium. And I thought that was really interesting. And I have a copy of that if you do want to see it, but I thought it's also kind of neat to have a copy and attach it to the minutes because it's such good information. And then I can't even remember, we've got this back in this postcard. I can't remember if I emailed it or not, but I was given a postcard of Bowling Green. And did I send that with the letter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I have that in person if you want to see the postcard.
they're very
It's kind of a neat
interesting.
story that this man from California in a nursing home found this postcard and mailed it randomly to a attorney's office in Bowling Green just to get to somebody. But why I'm bringing this up, because Marnie at the library had asked if we could donate this postcard to her or to the library, and if so, we'd have to fill out a form. So that's why I'm asking, because I feel like it was given to us as our property, and I don't know if you're wanting to donate that, maybe make a motion to donate this postcard, and we could fill out the donation form.
Do we have a nomination?
I move to donate it.
Okay.
It's better in their hands.
I'll second.
Second.
I think that's a great location to preserve this.
Yeah.
When I saw the name Harms, I was wondering about the Harms at 503 Buttonwood. There got to be probably some connection.
Yeah, it's a great postcard. And it's well preserved.
Yeah. So did you send us $6?
Or maybe the attorney did.
I thought you said, jeez.
Such a cute letter.
Okay, lobby visitation. Anyone to share today? Nothing?
That's what I saw this.
Rose Drain.
Rose Drain. Regarding South Main School, there was someone in the group of people that visited the school who thought it could be upscale housing, but I think there's more of a consensus among the rest of us that it would be maybe developed as senior housing or modestly priced housing, with the hope that the lots that are the ball field could be worked out between BG Song and Habitat for Humanity, that Habitat could build houses on there. Anyway, just wanted to make that clarification.
I think I had said something different. And there is some great space there for some development. If we could make that happen. So I think it's a great idea.
So, and we have looked, there has to be a certain amount of seed money before we could apply for a loan, for example. There has to be a substantial amount of money to first purchase the property and then to get started, to have, some credibility. When we're asking for a loan, we got to have some money. So that's why it's stalled. But as Kathleen said, it is still a hope.
Yeah.
Who owns the baseball field?
The person who owns the South Main School.
David, is it Rosen? Is that his name?
So he would have to have a financial incentive to donate, or otherwise.
Well,
the field or
he could get a
something.
tax, a tax write-off
Okay,
for
yeah, he has to be,
for donating.
no, that'd be great.
And I understand he invests in property, so he's certainly could be interested in a tax write-off.
I know we've made overtures to him, and I think the price has changed off and on, hasn't it?
When I first looked at it, that might be 2.5 years ago, it was 500,000. Last time I looked, it was 350,000. I'm not sure if it's even listed again.
Kathleen knows more about that.
Yeah, so I spoke with Drew Hanna, and when it was listed at 500,000, or I think it was actually listed at 350 at that point, Drew made it very clear that he would take a different offer. He also, if you look at the form that he sends out where it talks about the piece of property being for sale, he mentions an interest in investment or opportunities, which I think is interesting. Our BG Song's concern about that is that we would really like to see this be done with kind of within the context of housing people that are not, that have a that are in the 80% of the median area income, or maybe a retirement, something like that. So we'd like to be able to have some input, serious input, and so we haven't reached out to him from that point of view yet. But he is, he does do development, I guess, from time to time. So, and the other thing that I see as something, as an option for this property is perhaps, I don't know how this would happen, but that side of town could use a walkable city park. And the parts of the property that are, what used to be the playground where we played as kids at recess, could make a very nice walkable park within 10 minutes. I mean, I think that's kind of what's suggested in community development now, is that every community should have a park that's a walk 10 minutes away from their home. And this would make a great opportunity. People wouldn't have to cross South Main Street to get over to Kenwood School or the Black Swamp Preserve. So I think if we could build partners who would maybe help us purchase the land and create this kind of mixed use space, that could be pretty fabulous. So
Has Habitat been made aware about the school being for sale?
I'm sorry, who?
Habitat for Humanity?
Yeah, I think so. I think they know.
Okay.
Yeah, don't know that would be a feasible price for them.
Yeah. No, they were
But the-
considering low-income housing, a site one time.
The site, yeah, empty site, but they're not into rehab right now.
Well, multifamily building too,
Yeah, that's a whole nother
yeah. Well, they're-
prototype that I've explored. But I mean, you were thinking like the baseball fields could be a community park too, or just I'm not,
I think
the part behind the
I think
building?
we could put habitat housing on the baseball fields. I think Rose agrees with that, right?
Yeah, but what
What
are you
about- you said
thinking
you
of
wanted a
for a city park?
I
What
think the
area?
park area could be along so the building would be a home, house individuals, maybe some retail space, but the parks could be where the playground. There's like that area is there's quite a bit of space there. It's not going to be like Bowling Green City Park, but it's going to be a space for people to go. And
Is there enough parking for everything, for the housing and the park, or would the baseball park need to be
I'm
parking
not
too?
big on cars, so I'm thinking it's a walking park.
A
Well,
possibility.
but the people
know,
living there need a
A
parking.
possibility for the parking would be the gymnasium.
Yeah, that could be converted to a parking garage.
So, oh,
It's, the gymnasium was built,
right. Would you tear it down?
no, I wouldn't think so.
It'd be pretty hard to change the auditorium into parking. I mean, especially since it's in bad shape anyway.
Yeah.
So
well,
probably be
so
better if just the site
I
itself.
don't know. We haven't really gotten
Right.
that.
We
But you
mentioned
don't
it to
own
the
it.
architects we've talked to, and people are like, oh, maybe, so we have a list of
Mm-hmm.
people who have provided us with the next steps, and I would say that that's one of the things that would have to be considered, but it provides parking for the and that would be great for if it was for elders, that.
Would the zoning have to be changed to multifamily residential?
No, it's
is it already-
multi-use neighborhood zone.
Okay.
So it qualifies for this concept,
Nice.
right?
Yes.
What kind of support do you think we can get from the community? I mean, the Bowling Green community to help financially support this? I mean, I know BG Song supports it, and I think we, as the HBC, would support it, but would Bowling Green, I'm not talking about the government, but individuals, if we would really make a big push, do you think we could raise any substantial kind of money?
Might be able to. We've talked about, doing a fundraising. But we personally don't have the knowledge and capacity to manage such a large project right now. So we would also need to identify individuals who could help us with that scope of.
Right.
But the person we
Yeah.
talked to who's got the Toledo company said that he is interested. He may be interested in being the developer.
Yeah, and he has done the Wonder Building, which was the Wonder Factory, the Wonder Bread Factory, turned it into condos. So he has a background experience. He just doesn't want to have to do the purchasing and the preparation work. So
I mean, this is the last standing old school in our city, and I think it's a
it would
project.
make a
that we-
wonderful home, and there,
Yeah.
maybe the bottom areas could be retail space. I mean, it would be a fabulous opportunity for BG to really embrace the idea of mixed-use neighborhoods and providing green space within an area that actually needs it, and providing an opportunity for some habitat homes where we can have this inclusive style of living, which is so relevant for our new century, the 21st century.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way of the future.
But it's a nice idea. We just gotta find somebody with the money to do it.
The
You need to
pockets.
convince the buyer. I don't think convincing individual city people is gonna. We'll get the support, rah, but I don't know if they're gonna donate dollars
I know.
to somebody who's gonna make money off of
Need
it.
a lot of $25 donations to make that happen,
Yeah.
right? So, Okay, well, let's keep optimistic about it.
I also wanted to address the commission about Bowling Green Song's position regarding the rezoning of the property at 416 West Worcester Street. You probably know what BG Song's position is. Anissa had reached out to me to say, hold on, I need to get my to ask the question, does the distinction here mean nothing to BG Song, the fact that it's an historic property? Well, yes, historic significance is important. It's in our mission statement that we value historic properties. However, as you know, the rewrite of the zoning code, the update of the zoning code, there was significant citizen input in regard to keeping the older neighborhoods as they are, which currently, of course, there are a lot of duplexes and multi-unit housing, but the point of the effort to not allow more duplexes is because of the fact that there's already so much density in the pedestrian residential district. So I suggested to Anissa that, the Planning Commission maybe could have a role in reaching out to City Council to suggest that it should be codified. If a building is going to be considered for a variance or rezoning based on its historic significance, then maybe that should be written into the code. And the zoning code has already been updated. It's not a big deal to make a change to the zoning code. So this could be something that could be considered by council. I think that's and then another thing is that I'm glad to know that that Anissa is applying for historic designation. And if there is something written into the code about the significance of a building, historic significance, making it be a consideration for variance or rezoning, that the owner first has to have applied for and received historic designation. And I think, because this is a spot zoning situation, our concern is that other owners of properties will come before the Planning Commission and City Council seeking rezoning. And why should they not also be granted the rezoning? So having an attachment to a consideration be that there is historic significance will hopefully keep other rental property owners from coming forward with a request for rezoning.
Thank you.
I have one more thought on the topic of the old hospital in terms of maybe bringing it more in alignment with the zoning as it is. And that is that I know Anissa's concern is that she spent a lot of money on this property. I do know that she was specifically looking to preserve the area behind her home. She was concerned that that would be developed along some lines at some point. That's one of the things she expressed to us. So she has her backyard now preserved, which is something that she wanted, which is nice. She also sold a piece of the property to Dunn's Funeral Home, right? Mm-hmm. So that piece of the property has kind of been kind of given her some compensation for her original expense. My thought is to bring this more into alignment with the zoning code as it is written now. There could be, she could do the development of the duplex, but be requested to sell it so that that way we have, you can have a duplex in the new PR zoning if someone is living in it, or if it's a bed and breakfast, or the owner is living there and they're sharing, they have the other duplexes a rental. That is in line with the zoning code as it is. So there are some options for her to and the reason I'm thinking of this is that, now it's just another landlord in the district. So we can avoid this if she develops it and it sells, and then she, her investment is complete, and it still retains, it's still a duplex, but it's in line with the zoning code, and it can either be a business or a home a home with a rental in it. So just a thought.
I'm confused a little bit. You're saying you want her to sell it, and then it would still be a
Because
duplex.
this eliminates this stigma
can't-
where she's now a homeowner, another landlord in the community.
But if she
That's all.
sold it to someone who is a landlord,
I'm saying that she would have to sell it as to a homeowner who's going to live in it, and
Not as a rental.
yes, yeah, and the way that it's supposed to be
Right.
with a duplex with the zoning in the PR district now.
so you want her to fix it up. You're okay with it being a duplex, but owner occupied.
Well, that's the way the zoning code is written, that you
I
can
was just
have
trying
a
to
duplex.
clarify.
Yeah, but you can have a duplex, but it has to be owner occupied. So it could be a duplex or a duplex, and maybe a person has a business out of
So your issue isn't with it being turned into a duplex or a multifamily, it's with it being a rental.
Yes, I think what it is to bring it back into alignment with the zoning code as it was established recently.
It's not established yet, right?
No, I think the zoning code is established.
Oh, sorry, the zoning, I was,
Yeah.
sorry, I was
Yeah.
thinking of the variance.
Yeah, it still would probably get the variance, but the situation would be, I mean, I don't know if you could change the variance as they're looking at it now.
I
but-
don't know that you could require someone to sell it. I mean, because it's her property, so she can sell it to whoever she wants or keep it. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that she wouldn't be able to get to historic tax credits, national or Ohio, if it was for owner occupied. So it would be an extreme expense.
You can't, if it's owner occupied, you can't get the historic tax credits.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Except that if it's an income-producing property, you can get the historic tax credits. So if a person lives in part of the building and rents out another part of the building, you can get the historic tax credits. And, but, as her attorney said at the Planning Commission meeting, she doesn't want to live in it. She wants to stay in her own beautiful home on North Maple Street. But there are other options for the building. It could be sold and someone could purchase it to have a bed and breakfast in. It could be home occupancy, where someone is making an income off the property because they've got some sort of business in it. And home occupancy is allowed in the PR district and I think every other residential zoning in the city.
Well, I don't know that this is a place to continue this discussion because we don't have a say in the zoning or the variance coming up, so.
Well, my original thought was that you as members of the Planning Commission could have some influence on council members in regard to having something in the zoning code that makes historic designation significant in regard to whether or not a decision should be made for a variance or a zoning code change.
Yeah, can I ask Heather, since she's the expert on some of this, is it a possibility to, I guess we would amend the planning code to allow this kind of consideration for a historic building that would be torn down otherwise?
I would say that's not in your authority at all. It's Planning Commission and City Council that deal with the zoning code. You know, when you look at a historic preservation ordinance and even talk to the State Historic Preservation Office, they don't even get involved in zoning. They don't care about the use of a structure. They care about preserving a structure. I mean, that's part of what the tax credit program even is. That's why they really focus, I think, on income producing, because they know how hard it is to make historic buildings work. I mean, because it is so costly.
So I wasn't suggesting that the Historic Preservation Commission try to have its part of the ordinances. I was suggesting that the zoning code state that historic significance may be considered if there's going to be a request for a variance or a rezoning of a property.
It doesn't sound like that's our role as a commission. Right? There are procedures to follow, and that's going through the planning commission, which they had their public hearing, and it's now up to the city council to decide.
Right, I understand.
I don't, as neighbors of the property and involved with the other rights, I don't know that we have any more, should have any more involvement with that.
Well, I think we should have involvement. I think we should have involvement if this building's going to be torn down and there's no other way to save it. But the question is, how can we do that? When a neighbor of mine and a friend is trying to preserve this building and is under.
Well, but, you know, a question is, has she tried to sell it as is?
But does
Is that not a possibility?
It was on the market since 1993, so the fact that she came up, the money in her heart, you know, put so much money into it, speaks volumes for her dedication to preserving the structure.
Well, but she also wanted to preserve her backyard. That was her main motivation for buying the property.
I don't think we need to keep discussing this.
Okay. Thank you for your patience.
It's
Thank you.
thank you.
Tom Votsberger, attorney. I was agent for Anissa Miller in the Planning Commission, the application and the hearing there. I came today not to speak. I did not plan to address you. I was interested. I've not been to one of these meetings before. If I have, it's been a long time ago and I don't recall it. But with regard to some of the comments that have just been made, your input in this is important in your consideration. The protocol, however, is largely restricted to Planning Commission's recommendation and passage of its package on to City Council for consideration. Great deal's been said about this property publicly and privately. It was not purchased so Anissa Miller could enlarge her backyard. There was very altruistic, legitimate intent, which she described before the Planning Commission as to why she purchased this property and what she intends to do with it. My take on this, and I would be prepared to tell council this, is what Song and Ms. Drain is proposing is perhaps a good idea, to take a look at amending the zoning code, which was adopted in 2023 after, I think, 2 or 3 years of consideration, hard work by council, Planning Commission, Song, community members. If that zoning code is amended to allow the consideration that she spoke of, it will not happen quickly. That will not happen quickly. Ms. Miller's property will be sitting there in limbo uncertain as to how to go forward and expend more money to it. What I would propose, I've lived here since 1959. I grew up here. I've watched city government, county government, township government. I reject this idea about setting a precedent for other people coming along and getting the same type of treatment. All you have to do is look at our town, our townships, our county, and they are visible examples of good, sound judgment exercised by people like city council, county commissioners, township trustees. They have the ability, and they've demonstrated over decades of discerning between one project and another and deciding what's good for the community and what isn't. I myself have confidence that city council, whatever they decide, will act in a similar manner here. This precedent setting, I understand the concerns, but just because council would adopt the ordinance that we're seeking is not going to create dissimilar projects coming into the district there. And this has been long, and I'll finish here very quickly. What could be done, what Ms. Drain is proposing, good idea, go ahead and do it. But in the interim, treat this property as we're requesting it be treated. The safeguard that she may be worried about, subsequent people coming in and pointing to a precedent, could then be corrected by the revision to the zoning code. If you have any questions, probably don't, I'm willing to answer those. Great deal of time and money has gone into the project. She's very serious about it. Doesn't want to sell it, didn't want to condominiumize it so she could maintain control as an owner, as opposed to having sold to another party. I guess in an ideal world, if she were to sell the home she's in now on North Maple Street, move in, occupy one half, rent the other, as has been proposed here, that would work. There's some complications down the road with that in terms of selling it, passing it to her heirs, her beneficiaries. I think it's disingenuous, and it's not exactly been suggested here, that given the sacrifices she's made to preserve this property, that she makes the ultimate sacrifice of leaving her home. That's asking a lot. I would venture to say no one in this room would do it if they were in the same situation. So thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry I was a little long-winded there. Thanks.
Thank you all. A serious discussion, and we don't know the answer. Maybe something that will need to be a continued discussion. So I think with that, we will close the lobby discussion. Any suggestion for adjournment?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?